In today's video, I want to show a guitar that I've been looking for a while, and I finally found one used. This is a Flaxwood guitar made in Finland, and the best thing about them is not only how cool they are, but the fact that because no one really knows where they are, you can pick them up for a fraction of what they go for new. New, this guitar can go as much as $3,000 US to $2,500 US. Used, I can find one of these if you try for $700. This one was $900 with a case in what I consider almost perfect condition. I would say this guitar rivals a Paul Reed Smith in its construction and quality. Let's just get into the geeky stuff. This guitar is made in a small shop in Finland. They make this out of what they call flaxwood. It's a material that they make. It has impregnated spruce. If you look at it up close, you'll notice just looking at the neck that there's little spots. Now they explain that they make flaxwood to be a little different than carbon fiber or just an epoxy made instrument, to give it a more natural sound and feel with this impregnated wood into it. The thing I can tell you is it does feel very carbon fiber. It's gonna feel modern, but the guitar is actually not heavy. So let me give you the weight on the guitar and then we'll explain why it's not heavy, because that's a really important part of that story. Comes in at 6.93 pounds. So under 7 pounds is light for sure. However, it is completely hollow. They gut all of this. So you can imagine how heavy it would be if it was solid. So basically what they do is they create the neck out of that material, the flaxwood. Then they glue the neck into the body, so it's a set neck. And then the body is made of flaxwood. So the guitar is all composite at this point. This particular model has a Schaller tremolo, which I love. I had never really played one before. This is amazing. I love it. It's one of my favorite tremolos. 3 Seymour Duncan lipstick pickups, but they have all kinds of P90 versions, they have humbucker versions. I'm really a big fan of the lipstick pickups. I did a video where I took apart a lipstick pickup, learned how it worked, and then made some, and that's the set I have in my other guitar that I recreated from those shells that I took apart. So you can watch that video if you want to learn more about what's inside a lipstick pickup and what it's about. I think they sound fantastic. People probably associate them probably because the chrome, coldness of the chrome is being bright. They're actually very warm. Think of it like a single coil pickup that's warmer and bigger sounding, in my opinion. Then we have 22 nickel silver frets. So they're not stainless steel frets. To refret this guitar is exactly like ebony. This material works exactly like ebony. So if you pull the frets, it would be done just like you would do an ebony fretboard. Then you have a graphite nut, and this is a compensated nut. It's compensated for better intonation. Kind of looks and familiar to the Irvana style nut, very similar. The truss rod cavity is really strange because instead of having screws that go on the top, it has a Allen wrench that locks it down and compresses it tight. So it's an interesting way of doing it, to drill a hole and just have it finished. I'm wondering if drilling holes into the material weakens the material in somewhere and causes cracks. So maybe this was better to drill a hole and just have it finished. I'm not sure. That way you don't have constantly have people, screwing the wood screws into the material all the time. So I'm kind of thinking that's why they did it that way. Has a normal truss rod, works like a traditional truss rod. This guitar, I bought it used, of course, but I bought it in a music store. I bought it at Guitar Pickers in Scottsdale, Arizona. Shout out to them. So obviously I bought this guitar used, and even though the retailer was great, I want to show you how in 60 seconds I just did a visual and hand inspection of the guitar. The first thing I do when I get a guitar, look at the neck to make sure it's not twisted. The next thing you want to check for is fret wear, dents or divots in the fret. The next thing you want to do is actually just use your hand and touch the tops of screws to see if there is chips or if they've been stripped or damaged. Make sure you also check to see the posts on the bridge have been stripped or damaged. Maybe the corners have been chipped. That tells you that somebody, especially somebody who doesn't know how to use a screwdriver, which is even more important, got inside this guitar. And if they did, then what else has been done with the guitar? And again, that's not a don't buy the guitar, but that's a sign that, okay, who has touched this guitar that doesn't know what they're doing? These signs lead you to keep going and looking further at more problems. If you feel like you're concerned about the guitar in any way and that stuff, the next thing I want you to do real quickly is most guitars you can get to the truss rod cover very easily. And in some cases like Fender's, there's no truss rod cover. Get yourself a flashlight and just look at the truss rod to make sure that they have not stripped it. Again, you would think in today's day and age, it's really easy to find the correct Allen wrench. This is a good point to remind you again that if you go to MusicNomad.com for free, they have an Allen wrench finder webpage that lets you figure out exactly what Allen wrench or what tool you need for what truss rod. It's absolutely free, so go check it there. So again, this is a quick way to visually and just like I said, use your fingers to touch things and figure out if there's problems in just a minute. That's a 60-second little test. So this guitar came with the neck with just a slight amount of relief, and the action at 1.5 millimeters to 1.25 millimeters. So as you guys know, if you watch this channel, you know that most guitars are at 2 millimeters. That's a standard, it seems like. A lot of players don't like 2 millimeters. They like it lower than that. I prefer it to be at 2 or below. I mean, this is really great. The lower the better, so to speak, if it's not buzzing. But as we seem to know now by reviewing all the guitars and doing all the measurements and giving you standard measurements, seems to be a very industry-wide standard for 2 millimeters. So anything under that seems pretty good. Let's go ahead and check the frets and see if there's any tall or high frets, and we'll do that right now. Okay, so absolutely no high frets at all. It feels really good. The notes all resonate really well. This is usually a good time to mention the handshake. I usually do this on any kind of modern style guitars to see how these interesting, non-traditional carves work. This is crazy how this feels. It feels like they sculpted it for somebody's hand. It's not just rounded. It's like, it feels like perfect. So that feels crazy. So of course, when you go to play up here, right, it's just, Axis is fantastic. One thing you notice when you do this test too is that the guitar resonates. They actually say this is like a resonator plate on here. I was a little skeptical at first, but guitar is very acoustically loud for a guitar like this. Feels kind of like a semi-hollow because it is semi-hollow, but I mean, it resonates more, like they said. So let's go ahead and do the sock test. All right, let's go ahead and run the treble side. And of course, that's a 5 out of 5. That's perfect. Let's go ahead and do the bass side. And the bass side is absolutely perfect. So let's go ahead and do the bridge. That's another thing we like to do. And what's nice about this, there's no spots that catch. Oh, interesting, the string. When playing the guitar, even when palm muting, I'm not going far enough back for that to catch me there. And it doesn't seem to feel it without the sock. Remember, the sock test I came up with the idea of doing a sock test because the sock will illustrate visually what is happening physically, but more importantly, it catches things that normally your skin wouldn't catch. So if it can pass, then everything, nothing's gonna obviously scratch your skin up. In this case, this is another case where the sock is showing, it's a little, obviously it's catching, but my hand is not catching. Does that make sense? It's not scratching my hand. So that's good. That's how we know. Because this guitar is used, somebody could have had this all set up and done this way. Keep in mind, I bought this guitar a couple months ago because I always want to make sure I'm past the honeymoon phase with any guitar, whether it's coming in for an official review from a company or if we're buying it just to show you something on the channel, or in this case, this is my personal guitar. This is for me, something I wanted. Because it's so easy when you first get the guitar the first day, you're just like, it's amazing, you all should run out and get one. But it's a little different if you've had it for a while. Did it end up sitting in the rack more? Did it draw me back? And we'll get into that too. But let's talk about the nut. How was the nut cut? So pushing down on the 3rd fret with my ring finger and checking the gap, there's just a little bit of play. In other words, the string's not exactly on that fret. And given the neck has a minor, and I mean a very small amount of relief, if we were to straighten the neck, that would probably adjust that out. But at this action, I don't want the action any lower, and if I straighten the neck, I would have to raise the saddles a little bit, and I don't want to do it. I like the way it's playing right now. That nut isn't impeding or hurting anything when you play it. It feels really good. This guitar feels good. The finish on this guitar is another thing worth discussing. I thought it looked like spalted maple. I actually love it. I think it's unique and interesting. Kind of like a Paul Reed Smith, kind of like a Spectre. If you're familiar with Spectre basses, Spectre made some guitars that I thought looked really kind of modern like this. It's just got a very elegant, modern look to it that I love. I'd love to have a Paul Reed Smith with 3 single coils. I think that'd be really cool like this. I don't know why, I just think it's a cool, interesting idea. Control layout. We have a 5-way switch. We have a volume, tone, and a blend control. The main thing you need to know about this blend control is it doesn't do anything unless you're in the middle position. So when you're in the middle position, you roll it one way, it seems to focus, it blend in the neck and middle. Somebody was saying online that it blends to the bridge to the neck, but through all my tests, it's not doing that. It's blending the bridge and the neck. It's blending between them. In the position where you're got neck and bridge, where you have neck and bridge, it does the same thing, but it lets you kind of give more kind of signal to the neck or more signal to the middle. Kind of gives you this weird acoustic-y kind of sound. You know, not something I would, like if I was having one custom built by them, I would say you could skip that and just give me volume and 2 tone controls, that'd be fine. Something I didn't probably mention is that the tuning keys on the guitar are Godot tuning keys. Let's take this plate off. I mention this from time to time. I use this dent puller that I got at Harbor Freight for $3. I use it to pick up back plates all the time. It just suctions. You release it, it unsuctions. It's $3 and it's amazing. They don't really say what the plate's made out of. It's definitely not metal. To me, it looks like plastic. It could be some kind of carbon fiber. Feels really sturdy. It doesn't feel flimsy. Feels really nice. Let's look inside this thing because it's really interesting. You can see what I was talking about. It's just completely hollowed out. This is the main block where they're putting the pickups. Here are the springs and mechanisms for the tremolo. Potentiometers are very easy to identify. They're 500K made in Japan potentiometers. Here's your capacitor. So this is the tone control. This is a treble bleed. It's a really strange switch. Here's one I'm not familiar with. It's a PC board based switch, but then also feels different and looks different. Let me know in the comments if you're familiar with this switch. They use the shielding tape here. This is where electronics are grounded to the bridge, and this is how they ground it to the bridge. Interesting. You have a barrel output jack installed very well. This is not one of my favorite jacks. These are hard to repair. You always have to end up replacing them. Looking at this, there's no other choice. You have to go with the barrel jack. Let's go ahead and check these pickups. So starting with the bridge, we're coming in at 5.03K for the resistance. Going to the middle, we're coming in at 3.28, something you would normally never see. And this is what I was seeing about. See how I changed that by changing that dial? Look at that. So huge reaction from that control. Going to the neck, we're coming in at 3.35. Let's go ahead and look at the inductance. So at the inductance on the neck is 1.36, 1.32 on the middle pickup, and then on the bridge, 1.80. Okay, so let's do some measurements. Starting with the nut, we're at 42.36 millimeters or 1.667. Looking at the 12th fret, we're coming in at 52.49 millimeters, which is 2.066. Somebody asked on one of the videos just recently, I just want to be clear, when I was doing the neck thickness, they were like, are you doing with the strings on? What I do is I loosen the low 3 strings, the E, A, and D, and I pull them to the side, and that way I can get to the center. I'm measuring just the neck itself from the center of the 1st fret, which is got a thickness of 0.840 or 21.34 millimeters, and a thickness at the 12th fret of 22.79 millimeters, which is 0.897. You can tell from those numbers, or at least some of you can, that watch other previous episodes and realize that necks around 22 millimeters, 21 millimeters, really comfortable, thinner necks. This is definitely a C shape. Let's see if we can find what it is. To me, it feels really close to the Paul Reed Smith wide thin neck, our pattern thin neck. Definitely like a 90s era Fender Strat neck, so very fast, like the made in Japan Fender era necks. And again, if you're familiar with the Paul Reed Smith pattern thin or wide thin, this is going to feel very similar to that neck. Let's go ahead and look at the frets and see what those are telling us. The width of the fret is coming in at 0.093, which is 2.37 millimeters, and the height is coming in at 1.29 millimeters, which is 0.051. So that would put this fret wire in the jumbo category. And looking at the scale length, we were at 25.5 inches. So it's not 24 3/4, and it's not the 25 even like Paul Reed Smith, it's 25.5 like a Fender. And that would also help if we do the fretboard radius. Let's take a look at that. So we can see here, it's really nice, 12-inch radius fretboard. This is not compound radius, it's just 12 inches all the way up and down the fretboard. One question you might have, which I did some extensive research on, is what do you need for maintenance of the materials? Do you need to oil it? Do you need anything? Nope. You can just use standard guitar polish on it. If you want, just spray some on a clean cloth, wipe the guitar down, including the neck. All the material is, like I said, it's man-made material, so it doesn't need any kind of treatment. There's no treatment to this, including the fretboard. There's nothing on the fretboard that needs any treatment. Looking at the inlays, though, I point out these are abalone inlays, and then it looks like mother of pearl with F-holes for Flaxwood, because that's part of their logo. I understand why it's on the 12th fret. I like it. It's a little weird that it's also on the 5th fret. It doesn't distract me and mess me up or anything, but kind of weird. I think it would look better without it in two places. Give it more of a, you know, a badge kind of feeling if it was just on the one spot. None of that matters if it doesn't play and sound good. So let's take it in the studio. I'll play it and you can hear it, and then I'll tell you how it feels and my final thoughts on the guitar. A couple things. A lot of times people want to know if the guitar has a neck dive. This in your lap is very comfortable with very little to no neck dive. I mean, it really just sits, but it does initially when you first put it in your lap, it always kind of tilts just down a little bit, but not very much. When standing with the guitar strap, no neck dive at all. For the sound settings, what we're going to use is a Synergy Send 50 head. It's a 50 watt tube head. I'm running it into a 112 cabinet with a cream back, mic'd up with an SM57 and a room mic. For the clean tone, we're going to be using the B-Man, which is a Bassman style amp. And then for the overdrive tone, we're going to be using a Friedman BE. For reverb and delay, we're going to be using the Atlantic NuX pedal. Let's start with clean. We'll start with the neck pickup. Just sounds like a really fat Stratocaster for sure. Let's go to the middle and neck position. Here we go. Middle position. Okay, now we have the bridge in middle position. And of course the bridge. I really like that. In contrast, that neck pickup. Really, I think my favorite of this one is the neck and middle. Go ahead and switch over to the BE. neck position. Now we got the middle neck position. Final thoughts on the guitar. If you were looking for something a little less, you know, mainstream, maybe, you know, maybe you're a little tired of the mass-produced guitar market that is more affordable, you may want to look at odd guitars to see what's out there. You never know. You know, this guitar does have a very untraditional sound. It doesn't sound like a Strat exactly, even though it's got 3 single coils, but it's got a very Strat vibe. But again, more mid-range, more punch, a little fuller. It doesn't sound like a hollow body, but it is one. It doesn't sound like a double cut solid body guitar, even though it looks like one. As a guitar, it is a unique piece of art, and that is something that we are seeing going away in today's market. We're seeing high mass-produced affordable products, yet there's these gems out there that you can find used. I mean, there are Epiphones right now that cost more than this guitar, and there's nothing wrong with an Epiphone. But what I'm trying to say is, I mean, this is a really unique guitar that could lead you to come up with some really unique ideas. This is a unique, interesting instrument that I think I hate to see somebody like this put so much heart and soul into this, and yet, like I said, no one knows it exists, and when they do see it, it just sits in the discount area of the store, getting marked down and marked down again. I guess this video is just a reminder to go out there and look for interesting guitars, maybe not worry about the next big mass-produced guitar, and check out things. And that's basically what I wanted to do with this video, is just show you, like, look what you could find. If you like this video, you can subscribe. And if you think somebody could benefit from these videos, give it a thumbs up so the system will share it with others. I want to thank you for your time. Till the next time, know your gear.